अब आप अपने आप को अपनी तारीफ कीजिए.
I actually do not know how to introduce myself. Not exactly from Hyderabad. Been in Hyderabad for past 13 years, I believe. On and off, gone to other places also in between. So, parents' given name is Navdeep, which sounds much easier than the name I have now. The name, my ordained Buddhist name is Tashi Choedup. So, yeah. What am I? Where am I from? Being an activist, I think, more or less. Did nothing else other than that. Studied in Osmania University, part of Telangana movement, and of course the notorious Nizam College, where we do more than anything other than classes, I believe. And worked with Anveshi for a couple of years. Before that, I also worked with a Catholic, Christian, but an ordained Hindu monk for a year or a couple of years. And then it was with Anveshi, and for my last work, the 4 years was with LGBT community in Hyderabad. So that was the last space where I worked. After that, I disappeared for a year and then resurfaced, and this is the first time to meet gathering in Hyderabad after I surfaced. So yeah, that's it. Anything else you want to ask, you can ask, but that's short.
Tell me, when you were doing this activism thing, other than Anveshi's work, because I remember you were coordinating all that was happening.
Yeah.
So what were you doing in that activism? Because LGBTQ activism in Hyderabad is, one could say, it's almost non-existent.
Yes.
So what exists within that? What were you doing?
So one thing with LGBT community in Hyderabad was that there's no sense of community as such, honestly, at least a few years back. It was largely the first time when there was a sense of community was, I don't remember the year exactly, 2009 or 2011 I believe, when TV9 did a sting operation on a dating site of gay men. So they went on, created a fake profile, a reporter, and went on to the site, talked to all men, generally what gay men do around, and talking as if he's looking for hookups and all that, and took their photographs, phone numbers, and they had put everything out on TV with photographs, like literally with photographs. So
and nasty commentary.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
Really obnoxious.
Absolutely nasty, and they ran it for days. In spite, so that is when people in Hyderabad, unlike Bombay or Delhi, where there's already a sense of community and there are groups and activist groups and all that, with TV9 incident, people have come out saying that we need to do something. That is when there was, I think, first sense of community or wanting to come out and respond to something like this. Before that, there were groups like Expressions, and but they were generally book reading clubs and just few people, friends meeting together. Otherwise, nothing on a public space and all that. So TV9 was the first incident, and the second incident which triggered entire community was Modisa's suicide in IFLU, English and Foreign Language University. The student who was, whatever the story it was a gay person, Kashmiri student, and he committed suicide. So that was another thing. And then that is also when we started talking about pride and everything. So first Pride happened in 2013, I believe. Yeah, 2013. And before Pride, there was one huge queer event which happened, was an art exhibition. Exclusively inclusive, I believe. It was done in collaboration with Vajud and Veshi and everyone. That was the first huge queer event which happened, where people in the city met that the living, breathing queer persons in flesh, the other people met, saying that oh, there are LGBT people in the city in that sense. Sadly, the person who curated that art, the artist who curated that queer art exhibition is no more. He passed away on July 1st, this month. He killed himself. He was an artist, he was a doctor and homeopathic doctor. and was doing his PhD in HCU. So yeah, so that was one huge event. Then Pride happened 2013. We continued. That Pride triggered a lot of. After that, Pride came into existence called something called Queer Campus Hyderabad. So a bunch of few young college-going kids want to make a space for people to just come and talk. So that was the first. I mean, that's the group which came back then, and it is still existing and it still works. So that's one of the long-standing group in Hyderabad. After that, QCH and Queer Campus Hyderabad, and then a couple of prides came called the Telangana Transgender and Hijra Samiti. Telangana Transgender Hijra Intersectionality. So because within LGBT, as much as we all like to call LGBT as LGBT community, it's really not so. It is LGBT communities. We all are communities in our own way because we are different from each other extremely, that we also do not know about each other really at all. As much as a heterosexual, straight, cisgender person can be unaware of LGBT as whole, a gay man can also be completely unaware of what transgender means. And that is so even today, across the country, not just in Hyderabad. So that way we do have quite a lot of fights within the communities we have. So our major work, my major work was at least to largely engage with the Telugu media. Because Telugu media, I think, as much as the problem with LGBT is that our very movement, idea and talking happens in English. It doesn't happen anything outside English. Not really in regional languages. A lot happens in Tamil Nadu in that way, in Tamil, and a little in Maharashtra and in Kannada. They picked up, but in Telugu it did not happen so far. And also there's no way of dialoguing or talking to regional media. And we don't go and talk to media. They also make their own stories entirely altogether, and they have quite fascinating ideas and imaginations what these so-called LGBT people are, and they do that. So my work has been largely to continuously make sure that we represent the community, people like me, Vajayanti or Rachna, other people, we go represent the community, talk, make sure that there's a dialogue happening in Telugu. And again, within the community again, there's a lot of crisis issues which keep coming. And crisis issues vary from different kinds, there are different kinds altogether. One common thing is of course with police, with trans women, Hijra people, they're constantly abused and threatened and beaten up by very police itself, leave about anyone else. And that crisis intervention is constant. But also other kind of crisis intervention, of course, might sound cliche, but the entire breakup scenario, singlehood, and how people deal with that, and you're a queer person, you're constant in fear, what holds in your future, how you're going to live a life as a single person. So that's also something I looked into extensively when I was there. And other than that, trying to put other organizations, get other organizations involved with LGBT community, other feminist organizations, or even young youth organizations, like we come, meet, talk, know. But also basically one thing was to make sure that there is a safe space for community people to come talk to. Every month a meeting, every month a film screening. And also because where I stand today, I also realize in the process of rights and activism, we become so political. We at times forget that our prime agenda should be actually able to provide a safe space for community people before we talk about rights or anything else. When Vishal killed himself on July 1st, that's when I resurfaced back, almost started going out and meeting people. A lot of people come to ask, like, why, how could he do something like that, He's 43, 44, doing his PhD, done so much in life and done so much for the community. How could he betray us, do something like that? What could be the reason? And to stop asking that, we would never know the reason. What was going in that person's head back then, we would never know the reason. Why not let us ask, why could he not think of anything else? Having friends, community, everything, he could think about nothing else other than that. He did not find anything else other than that as a choice. So we fail as a community to provide safe spaces within community, because I also have the privilege of talking and in communication with people who have lesbian, gay men from 80s, when there's no mobile phone, no internet. How was community sense back then? When I was talking to them, it was like, see, there was no internet, there's no Insta communication and all that immediately happening. We used to write letters, and the first lesbian group in Bombay came into existence by a newspaper ad for a picnic. Women who love women. So, entirely different era. But they were available to each other, or there is a sense of belongingness, sense of community at a different level altogether, rather than what is now. Right now, because we all want to be so politically progressive and everything, we forget in the entire idea of being politically progressive to be kind to each other. And communities do become, especially LGBT community, I think across the country right now, as much as we tried to be a political few years back, we are so political now. But right now our problem is that we are so aggressively political that we don't see anything beyond or before our politics. Like, when I was there before the year I disappeared, there used to be constantly conversations. Oh, if you are not political, if you do not understand intersectional politics, you better not be part of the group. You better not, or people kicked out of the groups. So, in the idea of being this liberal, politically progressive person, and how do we forget to be kind within our own community spaces and make sure that this community space is actually inclusive in a very true sense. That doesn't happen much, as I believe. As we want to think it happens, it doesn't. So police, media, other organizations, feminist liberal organizations and all that, this was largely the work. But other than that, constantly making sure that community comes together for a lot of events. Like for example, in 2014, the queer carnival we did in Lamakan was first of such a public event other than Pride. But the problem with the LGBT community is also, we come together whenever there is a huge, flamboyant, big show, like a queer carnival, like a Pride. So it's an yearly event, an yearly mela. After the mela, what happens? No clue. We are all dispersed. No one can be blamed. That is how it is, where we should evolve from and move on. But right now, I think that is the state where we come together for prides, or if it is gay men, certainly they'll come for all weekend parties. Again, parties are very exclusive, only to gay men. They say that cross-dressed people are not allowed in LGBT community, in a gay party. And when someone like me goes in a sari, then certainly there's a problem. They won't let me alone and all that. So within community, there is a lot need to be done where we talk to each other and know each other actually.
But you attempt to, even when you know that they are not very comfortable or they're not going to let you in, you have attempted to go there.
I go there and I make sure that we sit and talk. Why don't you allow? What is the problem? And I understand where the problem is, because a particular class of gay men who can pay whatever that night's fee and go into a club party and all that, expect some quote-unquote sense of decency, dignified people coming in and all that, and especially again cisgender gay men, nothing more than that. So when someone like us or a Hijra person or someone like me goes in, we'll be disrupting the space and people would feel uncomfortable. That is the reason we won't let you in. So, but also, why don't you give it a try? Let us in, and if there is discomfort, then see how to deal with discomfort. If a discomfort arises in the first place, let it arise, and then we'll deal with it. Then we'll see how we can engage with it. With the fear of discomfort, if you don't even give it a chance to people to come together and all that, like for example, when carnival and also happens in the community events, also a lot of trans people, they don't participate. Hijra people don't participate because it's a very, very classy affair. LGBT affair, at least the LGB affair is a very classy affair. Last time when I remember, before I gone into my retreat, Vishakhapatnam people were planning to do a pride. And they were in kind of whatever, some help, make some Telugu pamphlets and all that, and they're in touch with me, and I've been trying to work out. So they were constantly doing meetings and all that, and in their meetings they've come to a conclusion that we will not let transgender people, Hijra people, stand in front of the pride, take the front row of the pride. They'll stay behind because they'll take over it. Now, women are all certainly very insecure because of Nalsa judgment and everything. They are in limelight and they are doing everything. I'm like, something is happening, no? Why care about it? So they were, and then I call them up and then say, why do you want to do that? Let it happen without any such kind of rules. Whoever comes first comes and all that. Let it happen without saying that I'll exclude, I'll organize who stands first, who stands behind and all that. They were like, got little aggressive, of course, people won't like. So I think they've gone ahead and doing whatever they want to do. So most of the Pune Pride, they have quite many restrictions like this. So they become very transphobic also. The LGBT spaces also become quite transphobic. And within again transgender, trans women, hijra spaces, they become very phobic to trans men. So hijra is again a very culturally, historically long, has a huge history and existence and presence. Trans men don't have that. So they don't understand trans men. So there's a problem. Trans women and hijra women and trans men have a problem. And most of the times, hijra people did have a problem with me also, because I was wearing sari and I was not shaving my beard or anything. I was comfortable the way it is and I didn't mind, and it wasn't shaving. So they were. I remember once they called for an exclusive meeting to threaten me that we'll bash you up if you don't stop wearing what you're wearing and all that. And also understand where it comes from. There's a fear of that we portrayed this particular picture of hijra community, and if you come and do, it gets disturbed. So because also it's a community such marginalized, there's so much of suffering and pain within, with no possible kind of healing or support system which is consistent and strong. There is a fear by any little change within the community, anything that's slightly out of the box, there is again fear, there's again insecurity. How does one deal with it? I think there's no one sound way of saying that to engage or deal with. We're still figuring it out. Still, we are yet not aware of what kind of communities are we, or where are we right now, or where are we heading. I believe we talk about more activists. We constantly talk about politics. Constantly talk about political activism, rights, Section 377 and all that. But in a country like India, let us all be honest that just by mere legal standing or legal identification doesn't make anything easier to you. It won't. If legality alone does the job in this country, I think there wouldn't have been any necessary of any activism possibly. So that way I think a long journey for community to go on to build their own safe spaces, support systems, all that. And again within the progressive liberal activist community, you cannot also be a believer and faithful person. There's all a problem with that. With hijra people, there is a problem. Oh, you people are not again politically that rational line liberal and whatever. You are like you have your own faith. You have whatever beliefs you have. Most of hijra people have their own beliefs, set of beliefs with their faith and everything, which again people don't understand how to engage with. So yeah, so that way it's quite a messy place, but quite a happening place also. That way LGBT community. But of course, again, if one sees, does LGBT people understand other intersectional politics? Not really. Fair example was one paper ad last year, a couple of years back in Mumbai. Groom wanted for my son, Iyer preferred in bracket. That triggered an entire debate in an interesting way. I think people should actually look at it positively. Without that ad, there wouldn't have been that debate at all. And after that ad, suddenly everyone started talking about caste and sexuality across LGBT communities. Delhi Pride has suddenly become this progressive pride which will talk about caste. After this paper ad, I remember going to Delhi and attended one of the first Pride meeting of that year. They were like, see, we'll talk about freedom and everything, but not will specifically talk about caste. There's no need. All progressive liberal people. Then there are this bunch of people from JNU and other places who are Dalit and queer. So they have come up saying, why don't you talk? What is the problem in talking? Then the debate started there in the Pride. There were placards holding Dalit and queer and all that. I think first of its kind in entire LGBT community prides. And it's a huge thing. We are like suddenly progressive talking about caste. So yeah, it's a fascinating journey otherwise for community and also, but there's, along with political activism, I believe there's a need for really creating safe spaces where people can just walk in, be themselves, like we all at one or the other point of time, I think in the community, at least most of the people I talk to, we think about death. Like for a non-cisgender or a cisgender gay queer person, you're not marrying, so you don't have family, children, kids and all that, you don't have so many responsibilities. One way it sounds like, wow, you're like free, like you can do a job, earn for yourself, make a life, no wife, children or no husband, children and all that. That way it sounds, it looks, but other way, you don't have anything anchoring and rooting you in. Your family will move away. In the community, it is so constantly changing and ever-changing community that who is your friend, who is not your friend, people keep moving around and all that. There's no stable community space as that, because again, you grow old. Once you're an old queer person, it is different, because essentially queer politics are young people's politics, because we only constantly talk about people coming out. How does young people come out? How does young people cope up? How does they recognize or identify their sexuality and all that? What happens to people after their 30s or 40s? Like they almost don't exist. We essentially become very young people's spaces. And we don't realize also. We think, oh, there are only all young queer people around. Please, in the same line over here, Hoshan Merchant lives. And I don't remember his apartment, but yeah, I used to come visit his home. I'm like, he lives. Who knows which this generation queer people doesn't know there was someone like Hoshan Merchant who had come out in whatever the time in that era and be openly gay man, and teach and write poetry and things. Nobody knows, because he's grown old. If he's young and all that, it would have been different. You would have been in the limelight of the community. And it's a side affairs of the community, because also there's so much to deal with in our own lives. We do not know how to actually look at community, reflect at ourselves and also reflect at community and see how do we grow, evolve, change. We don't look at that consciously. It's like we come, friends, parties, meetings. So wherever you can find that little sense of belongingness, you try your best to have that little moment of sense of belongingness, and you hold on to it as much as possible. What happens when that goes away? It's something you don't look at. And that's, yeah, not such a pleasant thing, I believe.